All right, welcome to the Know Your Numbers podcast. This is your host, Chris McCormick. I have a very special guest in Kevin KAYR Robinson today. He is a real estate investor in the New York area, investing in the Philadelphia market, and I'm sure more than that if I am correct. But welcome, Kevin. Introduce yourself and then give us an idea of who you are, and then we'll get right into it.
Perfect. So I go by KAYR, KAYR. I grew up in Philadelphia with 6 siblings, single parent household. My mother raised all of us. I remember at a very, very young age, we were living on welfare. For people that don't know what that is, like the EBT cards, at the government assistance, super poor. But I remember vividly when I was probably like 6 years old, that one time my elementary teacher, she brought us KFC and she had my favorite, original chicken, but she messed up on the side. She had mashed potatoes and mac and cheese. I'm like, where's the coleslaw? But you know, beggars can't be picky. So I ate it that day. But I remember that meal distinctively because we were in the living room and I could see the stars because at that time our house had burned down and we were homeless and the whole 3rd floor was missing. So at that moment inside my heart, I said, look, I have a burning desire to achieve financial freedom. I want to put myself in a situation that my family and I will never face this again. So I start working really hard, going to public school. Then I got a scholarship, went off to Wall Street, and then I started investing in real estate. In 2009, I bought my first unit. By 2018, I had 9 doors. By 2019, I had 35 doors. And by 2020, I had 105 doors. So I went from making like $10,000 a year in annual rental income to now making over 100 grand per month in rental income. So it's been quite a journey. I retired from Wall Street last year. And so I've just been focused on building my businesses and just continuing to learn.
That's incredible, man. And I did hear that you retired recently. Congratulations on that. I know that's a huge step, and we'll get into that too. But man, the rags to riches story, if I've ever heard one, man, that's incredible. It sounds like it was at a young age. Like, how old were you when you first realized that you wanted to be financially independent?
So I really, first I was, because of the housing insecurity and because of the food insecurity, days not eating and having electricity and always moving around. I tell people I have a PhD in being a tenant because we moved at least 10 different times. And I remember probably vividly, like around maybe 13 years old, that's when I had this revelation that I said, hey, look, I need to get my life together. So I was talking to my stepdad at one point, and he had said, look, don't be an F up like me and your mother or what have you, and your siblings. So I have siblings that had kids at teenagers. I also have my parents where they got divorced, they were struggling. We were living in a studio apartment, super poor. Like we had a maybe like 15 people with nieces and nephews living in a studio apartment where we have a hot plate with no stove. We have a bathroom sheet hanging like the door with no real door. We have a bathtub, but no shower. We have one bed and all these people living in the studio. So I realized that at that point, I wanted to replace the landlord. I didn't want to replace the drug dealer on the corner or replace the homeless person or the bus driver or the teacher. I said, I want to become the business person. And so I would go to church and they were always raising money for the church fund. So I had started saying, my parents, they loved me, especially my mother, and she didn't have a lot of means. So I said, let me figure out how to create wealth and financial security and housing security. And so it really started at that really young age.
Wow, that's incredible, man. And there's so much that I want to dive into, but one thing that I noticed from checking up on you was that frugality mindset that you have. It's funny because I actually posted recently on the importance of frugality, and some people having such a weird look at it and kind of looking down upon it. But I got to honor you, KR, is that like somebody that comes from nothing and starts making 6 figures a month. You see people on Instagram and Facebook and all social media, they're spending like crazy, but that's not something that you do anymore. How important is frugality to you and just being cognizant of your money and a steward, quite frankly?
For me, it's been always very important to me that it's not how much money you make, it's how much you get to keep. Mm-hmm. So I always had this mentality. The number one rule of investing is return of investment. That's OF. And the second thing is return on, ON, return on investment. So for me, I wanted to make sure, especially knowing the power of compound interest, I wanted to be able to invest as much money at a young age to benefit from time, the compound interest. So I always had this mentality, like when I watched the movie Titanic and it had people that represent the old money and people that represent the new money. I wanted to adopt the ways of the old money where you're very frugal, you're understated, you basically let your work speak for itself, you let your gold speak for you. So that's where I was focused on. And I see food and food like fuel, and I just see clothing just like as a necessity versus I have to relish in that experience. So my mentality is very different. I read like a book, Extraordinary Wealth, Ordinary People, and I start to change my mindset. So for me, not only can once you change your view of material things, but also your view of like your diet, you start to understand more of necessity and also more of like fuel to get you to point A, B, C, D. And so I start looking at that, read like a book called The Biology of Success. So I changed my whole mindset, and that has helped me capitalize getting a portfolio of stock over 100,000 and also be able to build investments where I don't own a car. My thing is that I wanted to impress someone I'm dating. I would say, oh, you want to see my car? I would say, how about we just go look at some of my buildings? They have my name on it. That might be a way to convince you to date me instead. And so it's a whole different flex.
Yeah, come on, man. That's what's up. I like that. That was something, and that, I mean, again, a lot to unpack there, but I was actually going to ask you, is you're still in New York, right? Is that correct?
Yes, I live in New York, and I have 85 rental units in the Philadelphia area and 20 in Harrisburg.
Okay, yeah. So some people see New York as this high cost of living area, but for somebody that's living there and is able to make it work as a self-employed individual, I think something that they overlook is the ability to get from place to place by your own 2 feet or public transportation and not having to own a car, because that's one of the biggest expenses. So you kind of touched upon it there. Just tell us a little bit, any tips you might have for somebody living in like a high expense area.
I recommend, especially young people, it really cracks me up. They say, I need to live next to all the action. I'm like, you just got out of college. You don't have any experience. You don't deserve to live next to action. How about you one in the boroughs? You can live in the Bronx. You live in Brooklyn. You can live somewhere else. You don't have to live in Manhattan, that happening spot. Live somewhere else and be able to save that extra money to invest in your first rental property or invest in stocks or some other type of asset. And what you can do is when you want to go hang out, get your little butt up early, go get on the go to that spot and have fun there on the weekends or on Thursday and Fridays. Go to the action. Live far from the action during the week so you can build up that portfolio, and they'll motivate you that eventually you can afford to live in those vicinities. So that is the advice I give a lot of young people. And the other thing I give a lot of young people is that, look, you don't have to be super comfortable when you first start off. Actually, you grow more where you're uncomfortable. So go out, get one roommate, go get 2 roommates, 3 roommates, so that you can learn how to interact with other people and that you can cut your monthly costs down. Remember, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And so at a certain point, I lived by myself, but when I first started out working on Wall Street, I used to have roommates. So I had 1 roommate, then I had 2 roommates, because I was trying to keep as much money possible so I could build up that nest egg, and you can see the power of compound interest. So I would encourage people to not also think about what you're buying. Don't be what I would say a label whore. You pretty much can go and get generic brands and stuff that gives you the same type of experience and save your money. Because it's amazing how much, even a small amount of money, a lot of people would say, you know, your Starbucks coffee is not going to hurt you that you get every day, but $5 times 30, that's $150. If you're like 24 and you put that extra $150 away for the next 40 years on a regular basis, that is going to be a gigantic, I mean, several $100,000 worth of money that you're going to be throwing away. But people get that way. They're like, that's just your coffee. Tell those people to just go kick rocks. That's because they're not analytical. They don't look at the numbers.
Right. And that's what the show's all about. Hashtag know your numbers, man. That's what it is. It's a numbers game. And I think that's intimidating to some people. Like a lot of people just don't think they have the mind for investing, and they just don't, quote unquote, understand it. So what about people like that are in that young age group, but they don't see opportunity for themselves? I think I know the answer, but I'm curious what you think.
What I what I encourage people to do, and in my course, I teach you,
Yes.
pretty much, I don't want you to take on so much risk that's overwhelming.
Mhm.
So if in high school, if you struggle to manage $5,000 responsibility for expenses, I don't know how you're going to get a hard money loan for $100,000 and do this massive rehab. You've never been really that good with money. So this is a whole new experience. So I tell people, cash your bucket where you are and start very basic. So what we say is we want you to go out and we teach you how to find these properties, analyze the market and find these properties. And we want you to do is an easy breezy cover girl type of house. And what I mean by that is you take someone like Queen Latifah, who used to be a rough hip artist, and now you see her now, she's beautiful like a cover girl. So you find this house that has really good bones. And what you can do, it may already have a tenant in there. So you could buy something, let's say for $40,000. You put down 15%, that's $6,000. So what I want you to do is save $500 a month for a whole year. Now you got $6,000 for your down payment. It's already tenant occupied. And what you actually can do is when you get some more money, you can fix it up. I did this when I first started. I put $17,000 in the rehab. After it got rehabbed, that property had appraised for $146,000. I was able to take out $101,000 and continue to build my portfolio. So you could do the same thing. Figure out how to analyze different markets. Spend about like $8,000 to $10,000 on your first rental. Already has a tenant in there, so you're going to get some rental income. Then you can use probably one of your credit cards, promotional, or you can save up our family and friends and then make some repairs to it. Be able to refi, cash out, what they call the bird strategy, and then you're able to go and buy more. Because the thing is that if you think about it, if you have one property and say you're making $4,000 a year off that one rental property, that's after everything's paid for, you get $4,000 and you're 24 years old. If you do that for the next 10 years, you'll be 34, but you'll own 10 properties and you went from making $4,000 a year to making $40,000 a year in cash flow and you're 34. Now you can go out and start buying apartment buildings. So you went from 4,000 year one to 40,000 cash flows in year 10 to now year 11, you're up to 60,000. And then now you got 60,000, year 12, you're up to 90 or $100,000 in cash flow because things done well are done soon enough. And if you do what's necessary, then you do what's possible, you'll find yourself doing the impossible.
Wow. Oh, exclamation point, drop the mic, whatever you want to call it, man. That's incredible. I love it. And that's there's another thing you touched upon your course and your education. A couple of things that I want to get into there is one, how important self-education is for you. I mean, you've talked about the books and going after it and getting all the information. And then I think you have a heart for helping others and teaching others. So how has that played a role into where you are right now and what drives you when you're going out and helping people get their properties?
So the thing for me is I'm really big on legacy. And so my students are my legacy. So my business partner, Jody, came to me. He was on vacation in 2018. He and a bunch of my coworkers got on the phone saying, let's talk to KAYR. He has a full-time job, but he buys real estate. How does he do it? So Jody was on vacation in Florida somewhere, was in a parking lot listening to me. I explained my philosophy. And he said, look, I'm going to rent a car. He got back to New York where he lived, rent a car, came all the way up to Boston and took me out for dinner and said, look, what do you need me to do? I'm trying to learn whatever it takes. If you need me to pay you a fee, you need me to do make presentations, anything to help me learn the business. And so I took him under my wing and then he learned from me. Then he became a debt investor. Then he became a partner where we invest in apartment buildings together. And then he said, KAYR, I know you work with people one-on-one. How about we open this up on IG and start teaching other people? So now what we do is we have a boot camp where we teach individuals, regardless of race, gender, class, sexuality, I don't care. As long as you're a hungry person and you want to learn, we're going to teach you how to analyze different markets, different cities, and then teach you how to analyze the different deals, then give you a framework to do that, but also give you a list of questions to ask the property manager, the lender, and also give you access to our team around the country because it is in my best interest that you do well because I don't want you to embarrass me. And then we do one check-ins for the next 12 months at no additional cost. Wow. So that's one course. Then we have an apartment course. So for my sense of giving is I grew up with very little. So when I priced my boot camp, $349, I'll tell a student, look, if you don't have it, follow my page for free, save $1 a day, and a year, come see me, because I want to meet you where you are. I'm not trying to take all your money. I give you a year because I want you to work on your credit score, work on your down payment, also work on mastering the material. So that's always been my type of approach in terms of educating people from a financial standpoint. And then we do a lot of nonprofit stuff. We're talking to nonprofits, talk to kids and things of that nature to couple that. But we're really big on helping people come up with a toolkit that they can rely on. And they can contact if they have questions, and no additional cost for the next 12 months.
That's awesome, man. And I know people who have taken that and have spoken highly of that course. So if you're listening, I encourage you. We'll send a link out, but get in touch with these guys. They have a great philosophy around real estate, money, and all the above. So you've talked about giving. You talked a little bit about church growing up. I've seen things on I think it was Market Watch of you praying before a meal. I'm curious, KR, is how faith plays a role into your everyday life, because I mean, it's big for me, and I know it's important for a lot of business owners out there. I'm curious if it controls a big part of your life, and how that plays into it.
Faith is I'm glad you asked that. Faith is very, very important. And for me, I'm a Christian, but I respect other religions. For me, it provides me with a foundation, and it provides me with structure. So I pray every morning, I pray every night, I pray over my food. My mentality when I was like 13 or 14, I was happened to be reading the Bible at the time. And my philosophy was that, look, if I'm supposed to be a child of God, there's no reason why I should not be doing as well or even better than the other people that are misguided. How am I supposed to be able to represent and inspire other people? So for me, it's always been something that can help push me through when I'm having doubts or I'm going through difficult times. So it provides me with a framework. So I encourage people to figure out, I don't tell them they have to believe what I believe, but you need to come up with some type of framework, some type of basis that you can use to help you get through difficult times and also joyful times that teach key principles that I think are universal, that we all share about gratitude and respect and transparency and honesty. So for me, that's been really important for me.
I like that. And the fact that you don't differentiate too, because I think it can be intimidating, I guess, when you see people, you have to be a Christian, you have to be Jewish, whatever, you just got to believe what I believe. But really it's just believing in something greater than yourself and having that motivate you, because times aren't going to be always easy, and chances are if you're in certain situations, they'll be harder than more times than not. So I try to encourage that here, and I'm glad that hits with you, man. On that note, and it kind of goes back to teaching and helping others. One thing that I try to promote quite often is this idea of service and serving your fellow man and providing value through that service. And at some point you'll reap the benefits. So I don't know if you have any philosophy on that, or does that play into your offerings and what you've come to know as a viable business model and good.
So I think that service, in many respects, one has to figure out how do they best give back. So like I serve on some nonprofit boards, one national, some local ones, and they're like Philadelphia Young Playwrights. I want to bring the arts into the school system, especially the urban setting. I also serve on another nonprofit like in DC, where we help young men of color realize their potential. So you have to figure out, how can you best give back? Are you going to be a strategic person? Are you going to be on the grounds? Are you just going to give back financially? I try not to judge anyone. I said, hey, as long as you're giving back on a consistent basis with something that you feel as though is sustainable and consistent, I just encourage people to give back consistently at a level that is sustainable, whether it's their own personal time or their own money, because we need all of those people. We need people that's on the ground, and we need people with big bank accounts.
Yeah, that's right, man. And I like the idea of giving back to the unfortunate, and especially in underserved neighborhoods. And something that's near and dear to my heart is bringing financial principles to areas like DC or Philadelphia. Curious if you have any thoughts on that, if you're involved in anything, or how people could get involved in that, because I think it's an underserved market, is like that elementary to middle school, high school education on finances and wealth building.
So what we tend to do is my team and I, what we do is we reach out to a number of schools and organizations. Like I'm involved with Philadelphia Young Playwrights, and I would do like a free Zoom for 30 minutes where I talk awareness, financial independence. Or you can reach out to the public schools and say, hey, look, I'm a professional, show your credentials. Say, we would love to come to talk to your school free of charge after school. And also, like, my family is a part of the largest Catholic church in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania that's African American. And what we would do is we could arrange an event there. So it's like using what's in the backyard. You don't necessarily have to get so creative and say, oh, I don't know where to start. You can start right in your own backyard. There are a lot of organizations, our town across a town that's only an hour away, 30 minutes away. You'll be surprised. Or there could be a shelter, or there could be a boys and girls club, because a lot of these organizations are lacking man and woman power. So we need people that are willing to give their time and also willing to help financially. So that's how I get back and encourage people to do the same.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. And how about like the idea of like higher education? I know you said that you worked your butt off to get a scholarship and pay for college, but it's a topic that's near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, is this idea of paying sticker price for those higher educations. Is it worth it? And for somebody that's cognizant of wealth building and the not so great things of debt, like what are your thoughts there? Is it something that's, I mean, for you, it's probably boosted you. It gave you a job on Wall Street. So I'm curious as to where you lie on that conversation, if at all.
So my philosophy is I'm always going to come down as to the individual. I think it's very important. So for instance, I use this a lot, cash your bucket where you are. So if you know for sure that you want to get like if you know for sure that your family can only afford a certain thing, or you don't really like that much debt, then you probably should start at a community college and you could transfer to a state school. If you know for sure that you're comfortable with a lot of debt, and this is hard to decide at a young age, at 18, but if you and your family think it through and say, what can we budget? If the family and you think that, hey, look, let's go to community college for 2 years. I have friends that went to community college for 2 years, then transferred to Amherst, which is one of the top liberal arts schools. I have friends who went to community college for 2 years, then transferred to Cornell University, one of the Ivy League. So you got to come up with what is your strategy. I was fortunate enough to get a full scholarship, so I went off to Bolton College. But I encourage my friends and their children and my students and people I work with to be realistic about where you are and what are your capabilities and what is your budget. And that should dictate what you do. And I do think that some form of higher education will put you in is a good fallback in case you have to work at McDonald's. You can be a manager or a Foot Locker. A lot of those jobs want you to have some type of degree to be the manager. So that's why I tell people this may not be what you really love to do, but get some type of degree in order to put yourself in a position to be a manager, unless you're a gifted person and you're really a blue collar worker and you can go and become a tradesman. Like if you're a master plumber and electrician, those different things can pay a lot of money. You got to figure out what is your best skill set. I was good at taking history courses and English courses. They would click. And so I said, I can major in that and probably get straight A's. If you know you don't like school at all, then you need to cash your bucket where you are and probably become a tradesperson.
That's awesome, man. And I think that's the best advice you can give. And I think that's just a testament for who you are. Your consistency in your philosophies and your ideas is just finding somebody where they're at and helping them and making them make the right decisions based off their current situation. And so honor to you, KR. I do want to be cognizant of your time a little bit, but I do have a couple more questions and I want to bring it back to you and the KAYJAY Consulting.
Fire away. Go ahead.
It's awesome, man. Yeah, that's right. You're retired. So what do you, which is actually where my next question was going, is for somebody that is quote unquote retired. I know you're working harder than most people do in their current jobs, but like, what does your vision look like? Is it getting a bunch of more properties, getting 20 properties in this year, or is it more on the helping others get their properties, or is it a little bit of both? How's your vision look?
I would say that I do not want to, I like to be honest. I'm not going to sit here and I work physically as hard as other people every day, because my days are very different from when I used to have to get up and I had to report to an office. You got to get dressed, go run somewhere, report to a meeting. Now I get my own meetings when I feel like doing them. So it's different. And then I used to go to the gym for 45 minutes and be like, oh, I gotta get all my workout in. Oh, I gotta make sure I fit a shower and I gotta go right back, or I'm not gonna be able to get this all done. I gotta go cook.
Yeah.
Now I don't have to do that. When I go to the gym now, I spend 2 hours there. I'm like, I don't know how people get a workout in. If you don't spend 2 hours, how are you gonna properly stretch? How are you gonna do that? So it's like I want to go on a whole walk for a whole hour after that. So it's a very different type of thinking. But the thing is that I would say I spend more time thinking. So Jeff Bezos said it best. When he was starting his businesses, he said he used to try and do 1,000 things, but now he spends his day, I took it from him, I spend my day thinking about 2 to 3 ways to how can I create more wealth for all my businesses, or how can I maximize the returns or create opportunities for the people that's on my team. So I spend time thinking, and I spend more time with my thoughts than I used to. I used to spend more time with other people's thoughts because I was a worker. But now I work for myself. I'm kind of like retired. I get to spend time thinking because I have property managers, my stepmom, my brother, they help run the business in Philadelphia, have a team like in Harrisburg. They're doing that. I have my aunt helping with the cleaning. So you'll never see me doing those things, but I'm thinking about those. So I would say that it's a very, very different way that I operate versus the way I think and move versus in the past. So was that part of your question?
Yeah. And I got a couple things. I do want to talk about family a little bit, but I do have a question on like somebody that's just getting started in their entrepreneurial journey who might be like Jeff Bezos was, running all kind of different directions. Do you have any tips there? Should they schedule time for thinking, or is it more grind until you can meet your needs and then start giving it away?
What I would say, but to follow up on the last one, I'm more focused on transformational wealth, which is kind of like, right. A lot of people know generational wealth, where I buy a house in 40 years, my family, they're inherited, they become wealthy. Instead, transformational wealth is kind of like how I work with Jody, a good kid who actually wanted to learn about real estate, younger than me. I said, look, I'm gonna teach you the game. So he had 0 properties in 2018. Now he has 60 doors. He wasn't a millionaire. Now he's a millionaire after working with me. So my brother actually, he didn't have any real estate. He owns his own house. He's also part owner of my LLC. He's my real estate broker on deals. So he gets a 3% commission. He was able to buy a house, give his in-laws money to buy a house. So now they're landlords, they have a duplex. So that's what I'm focused on the next 5 years, is how do I create transformational wealth for everybody that's in my circle? It's one thing if the people you love and the people you like, if they can eat at restaurants in the same zip code, but can they live in the same zip code? And so that's what I want to do, is give them that optionality. But for like a young person, a super young person that's just starting, what I want you to do is I want you to think like you're an NFL owner. If you have say you have a 9-to-5 job and you're just starting, I want you to think like an NFL owner. And what I mean by that is you come up with the vision for the franchise that you're going to build. This is your business. Then you're going to figure out who I'm going to hire as the property manager, the contractors to run the day-to-day business. And then the third thing you're going to do is watch everything unfold from afar. And what I mean by that is you have your 9-to-5 job, so you can be the best at your 9-to-5 job, because that's going to help you get loans, help you qualify to buy property and pay. So now what you're going to do, hold on one second. So now what you're going to do is you could get off the football field and into the owner's suite, and you can focus on, are we selling enough tickets? What I mean by that is, are the units rented out? How are we doing compared to other franchises? How are we doing compared to where we were a year ago for our vision? You can focus on all those big picture things so that when you're ready to scale, you already put the pieces in place to make it easy to go to the next level. Don't make it incredibly hard on yourself. If you're super young and scrappy and don't have that much money, use your good credit and use your 9-to-5, your W-2, in order to get those loans that you can put 15% down for a property, 20% down for a property, use FHA loans, they have some conventional loans that if you make less than like 80,000, 70,000, you can put 5% down. It's conventional loan. You got to think outside the box to stack the odds in your favor.
Wow. I like that, man. And I got to say, your ability to break it down into chewable bite-sized pieces is amazing. I mean, the football analogy, and then the save $1 a day, come to me in a year and and we'll get you up and running, man. It's inspiring. It's awesome. It helps more than just me. So KR, man, this has been a pleasure. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you. Appreciate what you're doing out there. I do like to close with one final money question, and that is for you, KR. What is one truth about money that a lot of people regard as a myth or don't even understand to begin with?
What's fascinating is that a lot of people do not understand the power of compound interest. I'm 38, but if I was doing really well at 18, I was already investing, I was focused. But a lot of people don't realize, even if you're just saving $400 a year or even $600 a year, you're saving just like $50 a month, and you let that compound over 40 years, you'll be surprised how much money you make. And you don't increase it, just do $40 a month, $50 a month for the next 40 years. You'll be surprised how well off you will be.
I love it, man.
You will really change the game. I mean, really, it's unbelievable. The compound interest in the stock market, or even if you bought one rental property every year or every 2 years, you will be surprised. Over a 40-year period, you have 20 units right there.
It's incredible, man. And that's a good way to end it. I think if anybody's interested in compound interest, you know who to reach out to, and that's KR here. How can they reach out to you? What's the best way to contact you, get introduced to you, and find out more?
So the best way to reach me is to go to my IG, my Instagram page, which is KAYJAY Consulting, KAYJAY Consulting. Also, our website is www.kjconsulting.net. Those are the two ways to reach us. Every Tuesday, we go live at 7 p.m. You can ask us any questions for 30 minutes. Monday is Monday Motivations on our page.
Yeah.
Tuesday tips, Wednesday workout, financial literacy on Fridays. So we're just trying to bring high content, quality time with our people. So come check us out. We're ready. We're in business. We're excited. The best times of our lives are happening right now.
That's right, man. That's what's up. And I'll link those down below. But KR, man, I appreciate you. I look forward to releasing this episode, but I know I'll be talking to you before then, man. Thanks again for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
It was a pleasure.
God bless, bro.